Due diligence.
Due diligence.
The small matter of due diligence.
So, due diligence. Yeah, that term gets bantered around quite a bit these days, doesn't it? In fact, I'm pretty sure the people that are using it aren't even quite too sure what it means, or maybe not using the term properly. Not sure exactly, but let's look at exactly what due diligence is. So, a couple of definitions here, not mine, taken from other sources, and here's one that's just a dictionary thing that I used and called. It's the reasonable steps taken by a person in order to satisfy a legal requirement, especially in buying or selling something. So there we see that due diligence is applied across a large spectrum of the business world. Absolutely. But let's look at the application towards our end and what we deal with. And the Canadian Centre for Occupational Health and Safety has helped to provide some of these defining points, shall we say, or definitions. And so due diligence is the level of judgment, care, prudence, determination, and activity that a person would reasonably expected to do under particular circumstances. And you know what? Hey, absolutely. And that sort of takes and encompasses that whole entire legal definition that I was talking about that we can spread broadly across the whole business world. But let's narrow that. Let's narrow that and apply it to health and safety. So once again, thank you to CCOHS. When it's applied to occupational health and safety, due diligence means that employers shall take all reasonable precautions under the particular circumstances to prevent injuries or incidents in the workplace. And now to go further, let's talk about that prevention also includes illnesses. It also includes bullying and harassment that are also addressed in many jurisdictions as far as occupational health and safety legislation goes. So there's the employer's responsibility for that due diligence. That's doing that right thing under those reasonable particular circumstances to satisfy that legal obligation. But here's the next question. And the next question that people need to be asking themselves is, how do they prove it? How do they prove they've done due diligence? And really and truthfully, the easiest way to prove it is with good documentation. I know a lot of people are thinking to themselves, I wish I wrote that down.
I should have written it down.
And by all means, you know what? I know a ton of people who would say that. In fact, my saying that I give a lot of people when they're hesitant to take my direction or guidance once they've asked for it is, well, you have two choices. You can listen to me now, or wish you'd listen to me later. Up to you to pick one. Let's talk about what due diligence is and how to go about proving it. Really and truthfully, like I said, if it wasn't written down, it never happened. If it wasn't written down, it was never done.
Really, what do I do here? I mean, I should have written it down.
Yeah, I know. You bet you're wishing you'd wrote it down. When I write things down, when I document anything to do, especially with health and safety, I follow the 3 Ds. It's my rule. And that is, make sure my documentation is dated, dependable, and defendable. Okay, yeah, we're going to look at each one. Now, as far as dated goes, that means that, well, it has to be dated. But when you're considering dates, consider 2 dates. And before I get into that, documentation has to be clear without any ambiguity. So is it day, month, year? Was that April 4th or April 3rd or March 4th? So see my point? Like today is March 14th, 2022. Why not just write that down? It's that simple. You don't want ambiguity, and you don't want to be vague, and you don't want to leave anything open to interpretation. I'll talk more about interpretation in a sec. But when you're going to record this, record the date that it was done. Record the date the event occurred. Record the date that you're trying to document for that due diligence. Then when you've done that, you also have to consider, are you going to be preparing this document at a later date? Are you going to be refining it at a later date? A good example is Health and Safety Committee minutes. Often they'll be taken by hand in shorthand form and then refined at a later date and then sent out. So you'll need 2 dates, the date that they were actually recorded and the date that they were prepared. So you might want to have that down. In fact, it's not might, you do want to have that down. Now, the other thing is you have to make your documentation dependable. And when I say dependable, I mean dependable. So how do we make it dependable? Well, don't refer to people in a vague or ambiguous fashion. If any time that you make your documentation where it's open to interpretation, it's going to be interpreted wrong. So that means people, their full names. I'm Kevin Barrett. Kevin Barrett, custodial technician. Kevin Barrett, landscaping technician, whatever the case may be. Okay? But then you can refer to me afterwards as Barrett. But include, at least in part of your document to begin with, is the person and their position if both are pertinent. Okay? Don't refer to it as the room at the end of the South Hall. What's the room number? Same thing as if there's different buildings. What's the building address? What's the building number? Be specific. Remember, if it's open to interpretation, it's going to be interpreted wrong.
Oh, that is open to interpretation.
If privacy is an issue and is a concern, you can use employee numbers. It does make your document more cumbersome, but it's an opportunity that you can use if privacy is an issue. And you wrote the document. Okay, so put your name to it. Okay, it's not so that we have someone's neck to squeeze, but if there has to be clarification regarding the document, and I'm hoping that when you're done this, there won't ever need to be clarification. But either way, leave your name to the document. And the next thing is to make it defendable. Now, I hate to tell you this, and this may sound really weird, but your opinion doesn't matter. It may matter at home, it may matter to your wife or your significant other, it may matter to your kids, but in the business world, it honestly doesn't matter. Okay? What you need to do is your document needs to be driven by a few things. It needs to be motivated by a few things. The first one, of course, is the legislation, the acts, the regulation, the codes, any standards, if they're included or quoted within the legislation. Okay? If legislation isn't a question about it, then it has to be corporate policy. What is the corporate policy that's driving what you're doing? Beyond that, if it has to do with health and safety, and well, that's why you're here, it should be driven by your health and safety program. It should be steered by your health and safety program. If you're writing a document regarding health and safety and your health and safety program isn't a big part of it, really, you got to question your motives. The other thing is corporate rules. Okay, what are the rules in place in your industry or in your corporation that you're dealing with? Okay, if it doesn't have to do with the legislation, the corporate policy, the health and safety program, then it should be steered by corporate rules. And then finally, of course, beyond that, published industry standards. Okay, remember, it's not open to ambiguity, interpretation, feelings, thoughts, or opinions. Make sure it's defendable. Now, when you're making these documents, I can't stress it enough. Ethics at all costs. No job is worth a tarnished reputation. If you are influenced in any way to steer beyond the truth for this due diligence, then you know what? That is going to follow you for the rest of your life, and it's going to be a hard thing to shake. So friends should not expect you to commit transgressions on their behalf. If they do, they weren't friends. Don't bother. The other thing is that internal political pressure. If your boss is trying to steer you in the wrong direction, then you know what? Brush up your resume, hit your LinkedIn profile, and start looking for another job. Because if they do, that's going to follow you, and it's going to make employment elsewhere a lot difficult. If anything's steering you and guiding you, it should be your health and safety program, and it's the law. Remember, as a health and safety professional or a member of a health and safety committee, you speak for the health and safety program and you're working within the law. Those are the two things that are steering what you do. Now, if I can give you what I call the 3 steering points for my moral compass, and I use these all the time, and hopefully they'll help you. What are you willing to read in the news the following morning? Okay, a lot of times people will question what they're doing, and they will question if they should even be writing this stuff down or recording something. But the whole idea is, what are you willing to read? If you're going to be willing to read news and your name's in it, hopefully it's good news. Now, the next thing, what are you willing to say in front of a judge? What are you willing to tell a judge? Think long and hard before you start putting pen to paper. What are you willing to say in a court of law? Finally, and this is the most important one, and this is the one that anybody should use, is what are you willing to tell your spouse? What are you willing to explain to your kids? What are you willing to tell your family? Okay? If anything should steer you straight, it's that one. So remember, document it. The 3Ds. Think about it. You want to consider, is it dated? Is the dates proper? Do I have to worry about formatting? Is it clear, not ambiguous? Make sure it's dependable. Make sure that you're naming person, places, times. The other thing is it defendable? Remember, it's not about your opinions. It's not about your thoughts. It's about the legislation, your health and safety program, your corporate policy, your corporate rules, and any industry standards. So there you go. That's it. I can't say it enough. Thank you very much for joining me. If you like the video, do me a favor, let me know. Click that like button down below. If you're new to the channel and you haven't done so yet, I appreciate hitting that subscribe button. Hit the like. Let me know what you thought. And if anything, leave me a comment. I appreciate all that I get. Until we see each other again, and I really, really hope we do, don't just think about safety. Don't just talk about safety. But be a safety influencer. Be a leader and provoke safety wherever you are. Okay? Take care. Bye for now.